Well, today our country faces one of the greatest moral issues in its history. It's a battle between government control and individual freedom. David Brody explains why the outcome will shape America's future.
Conservatives are used to seeing social controversies like abortion or gay marriage as moral issues. Battles over economics, though, are rarely cast in moral terms. It's time to change that, says Arthur Brooks in his new book, The Battle: How the Fight Between Free Enterprise and Big Government Will Shape America's Future. He says capitalism and the free enterprise system are under powerful assault today by forces on the left who believe these systems to be morally flawed. So those who believe the free market system is good and right need to fight back by learning to defend it on moral grounds. Brooks argues they need to present capitalism as not just the best way to make money, but as the best system to ensure a country's citizens thrive and prosper, that they are free and able to pursue happiness unfettered. The battle is at a desperate stage right now because many conservatives worry that President Obama and some of his liberal allies on Capitol Hill have convinced many Americans that the economic meltdown of 2008 was mostly the fault of greedy capitalists and Wall Street fat cats. Many of these left-leaning forces insist that the only way for the country to dig itself out of recession is to grow big government bigger and empower it to control the excesses of capitalism. They also argue this bigger, more powerful government needs to reform the capitalist system by redistributing the wealth of the country. If those solutions are imposed on America, Brooks wonders whether the freedoms of the free enterprise system can survive. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, David. Well, Arthur Brooks joins us now. He's president of the American Enterprise Institute, one of Washington's most influential think tanks. He's the author of a book called The Battle. And the book states that leftists believe it's morally right to remake America into a socialist democracy. And why do you think it's immoral?
Well, good morning, Pat. It's very good to be with you today. One of the things that we find is that most Americans, about 70% of Americans, believe that one of the central issues in our culture, I mean, not just an economic alternative, but a cultural point on which we feel very strongly, 70% of us, is that free enterprise is the best system for us to flourish. Only 30% of Americans feel that the free enterprise system is not good for Americans. And you know, the biggest problem is when I travel around, when I talk to folks outside of Washington, D.C., that is, that folks in this big 70% majority feel that they're losing all of the arguments. This is not Democrats versus Republicans. This is effectively the government versus us, that we're not being effectively represented, and we need to have the arguments. That's why I wrote this book.
Well, what about Obama? Is he firmly in the camp of the 30%ers?
Well, he is, but it's not just Obama, and this is where things get really complicated. Mr. Obama was elected openly saying that the free enterprise system was effectively anachronistic, at least as we knew it before. It was kind of out of date, and that's what had caused the financial crisis. But these arguments went way before President Obama. One of the biggest problems that we see is that even in the Bush administration, government was growing larger, social spending was accelerating, and there was a lot of malaise around the United States. This is effectively what sparked a lot of what we see in today's political rebellion in the Tea Party and town hall protests today, which is a lot of raw political energy. What we need, of course, are the ideas, the data, the facts that we can get behind this raw political energy such that those of us in the 70% majority can take back our system.
Well, how do you make it moral? Because, you know, there's a movie out there that I'm sure a lot of people say with Michael Douglas, greed is good. And so it's so easy to say, well, it's the fault of the greedy capitalists, greedy Wall Street, greedy bankers. How do you counter that?
Well, I think we can probably all agree that greed is not good. Greed is very bad, but the free enterprise system is really not about greed, and this is what we need to understand. I mean, people on the political left have traditionally told us that if we can just redistribute more income, we get more income equality, people will be happier and we'll get a more just society. But that's incorrect if you actually look at the evidence. The evidence tells us that the happiest people in America and around the world are people who honestly believe that they have earned their success. Earned success is the key to flourishing. How do you earn your success best? It's certainly not by spreading around government money, money through the government by force. The way that we do this, of course, is by giving people individual opportunity. The great irony is when we just spread money around through the government dole, people have less incentive to earn their own success. They actually get into a culture of dependency and they get less happy. This is why socialist systems around the world always promise happiness but always deliver misery.
So the happiness comes from achievement and earned success, and Obama is going directly against that. They had this huge stimulus package. Now they want to put out another $100 or so billion to give money away. I don't know who they're going to give it to, but they're planning to give it to somebody.
Yeah. I mean, the stimulus is a perfect example. We talked about creating all of these good permanent jobs, but we just got the job numbers back, and what we find is that very, very few, just a few thousand of the jobs that have been created over the last months have been permanent jobs that were not stimulus jobs working exactly for the government in the census. We've wasted so much of this money, which of course is going to be paid by us, our children, our grandchildren, will attenuate the ability and willingness of people to become entrepreneurs. I mean, this is the pathway to people not being able to earn their success. We're really going down the wrong road. 70% of Americans sense this. What they need are the words and the arguments to actually put this into action. I'm hoping that this book will do the trick.
Well, you know, the last question, and there's so many of them, in terms of the people here in America, are they willing to rise up against this 30%, whatever you call it, autocracy, and do something about it, or are they just going to let it slip?
Well, you know, that's why we have leaders. That's why there are leaders. That's why you're doing what you're doing, I know, is to make sure that when we're at a fork in the road, that we take the right fork. I know you've dedicated your whole career, and so have so many people, to making sure that Americans and people around the world make the right choices. The future is in our hands right now. We are the 70% majority who believe in the free enterprise system, and if we make the right choice, the best times that we could ever have experienced in our lives are before us. If we make the wrong choice, well, I shudder to think.
Well, Arthur Brooks, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the book is called The Battle. It's a small book. It's an interesting read, but it's just loaded with facts, figures, and cogent analysis of the situation we're in. You want to get a copy of it where books are sold. Arthur Brooks, The Battle.